So in this particular lecture, let's style up this index page which we have, which basically is the page to view our own posts. So currently, as you can see, this simply displays the title and the caption of a particular image which we have, but we want to style it in a much more better way wherein we could view all of the posts which we made, all of the images along with their title and captions in a manner that this looks like a social media website. So let's go ahead and let's start styling this thing up. So the main file which controls the look and feel of this is actually the index.html template. So here we are into that particular template, and currently we do have loaded the base template into it, and we have also loaded the block body and end block as well. So for now, let's keep these things handy, which is the fields which we have used to access the image and the title and the user, so on and so forth. So let's actually cut it and let's paste it up over here for the time being, and let's start designing the page right away up over here. So the first thing which we want to design here is that we want to design a certain heading over here. So we'll enclose that particular heading in a div, and then we'll have an h2 over here, which is a heading tag. So let's say this thing says something like my posts. If I go ahead do that, if I head back to the browser, you'll be able to see that we have my posts up over here. And we kind of have it twice, and that's because I think we also have this for here. So let's get rid of this for from here. For the moment, let's paste it up over here. Let's also cut the end for tag as well from here, and let's paste it up over here for the time being. Okay, so if I go back now, hit refresh, now we have my post one time. And let's get rid of this title which says homepage for users app. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So now the next thing which we want to do is that, let's say we want to center this particular element, which is my posts. So in order to center this thing up, I could actually center up the div which actually contains it. So here I would make this thing a flex, and then I would say that I want to justify the items inside it to center. So justify dash center is the class I would be using. If I do that, now as you can see, this thing is centered. Now you will be able to notice that there's no margin for this particular title at the top. So if I want to add margin at the top, I would simply say empty dash, let's say 5. And now the margin at the top would be 5. And also let's say I want to add a padding from all the sides. So I would say padding 10. Now it will have a padding from all the sides. So now the heading of this thing is pretty much ready, and now let's go ahead and let's set up the actual heading here. So the heading, as you might notice, it looks pretty small in size. So if I want to increase the text size of this thing, I would simply set the class of this thing to text dash XL. That will actually set the size of thing to extra large, but let's say if I want even bigger font, I could change it to 3 times XL. So it looks even bigger. Now let's say I want to make this font, or I want to set the font weight to normal. So I would say font normal, and then let's also set some margin at the top, or maybe at the bottom, because at the bottom we are going to have posts, so MB2, and let's change the text color to gray with a shade of 500. So now this is what it actually looks like. Okay, so the upper part of our page is styled. Now let's go back and let's actually learn how we could place our images over here. So the way in which we want to place the images over here is that we actually want to make a grid, and in that particular grid we want to lay out the images in terms of rows and columns. And basically what we want to do is we only want to have one column here in a particular grid. So we want to display one image here, then if I scroll down, I should get the other image at the bottom of it. So in order to design that, first of all, I'll design a container which is going to start with div, and then for this container I'm going to say that this is going to be a grid. So I would say div class as grid, and once we have this particular grid, I need to now say that in this particular grid I only want to have one column. So I would say grid dash calls dash 1. Now, once we have that particular column, instead of styling up this particular div with more classes, let's first go ahead and let's add an actual image. So whatever images which we have gone through over here using this loop, we simply have to repeat that over here. So in order to do that, I'll simply get the code from here, and this is why we have kept this code as of now. So here, all the images which we are going to place here are going to be in a card. So I will actually give a comment here which says something like, okay, the card starts here. So I would say card starts here. And let's also say card ends here. And within these two, we are actually going to loop through multiple cards. So here, first of all, I'll use a for loop. So the for loop is going to start. It's actually going to render out one card. The loop is going to end. The loop is going to start again. It's going to render out the second card with the second image, so on and so forth. So let's take the end for out of here. And let's actually start designing the card inside of these two tags. So first of all, whatever card you're going to create, this must be clickable, or whatever image you're actually creating here, that image must be clickable. So I will enclose the entire thing into an ahref tag. For now, this is not going to point to anything. Okay, so once we have this particular ahref tag, we could actually go ahead and start adding the image here. So in order to add up an image here, it's actually quite simple. I simply have to say image, and the source of this thing is going to be nothing but the post.image which we have up over here. So let's go ahead and let's take this particular post.image.url. Let's get it from here and let's paste it up right over here. So if I save this, we are pretty much good to go. So now once we have added the image tag, if I go back here, you'll be able to see that if I hit refresh, the image is now going to be added up over here. And this is what exactly we want. But now at the same time, you'll also be able to notice that if you actually go back to the browser, the images which we have here, they do not properly fit over here. Instead, they span the entire page with which we have. So in order to limit this, what we need to do here is that we first of all need to enclose this entire thing into an image container of a sort. So in order to do that, I'll first of all go ahead and create a div here. And inside this div, I'll take the entire image tag, cut it from here, paste it right up over here, and we are going to style this particular div tag instead of styling up the image tag which we have here. So first of all, as I want to make this card rounded, I would say rounded, and then I want to set the property which is overflow hidden. So I would say overflow hidden, and then I could specifically set the width and height of this thing in terms of pixels. So in Tailwind, whenever you want to set the width and height of a particular element in terms of exact pixel size, as you would do in normal CSS, you say w dash, and in square brackets you could specify the exact size in pixels. So here I could say 470 pixels, and same thing could be done with the height as well. So height, I would say 470 pixels as well. So we want a square type of an image, and then I could set the background of this thing to white, and I could also set a shadow LG to kind of give it a card look. So now if I head back here, hit refresh, you might not be able to see, but we have slightly rounded edges up over here. And this is actually going to turn up in the way which we want eventually, but for now, let's start adding more properties here. So now once we have this image showing up over here, the next thing which we want to display over here is actually the user who has posted that particular image. So in order to add that, we want to add the name of that particular user who has posted the image at the top, and we want to display the name of that particular user along with their profile picture. So in order to display that, what I would do is that I would create a div tag, and here I would name this thing as, let's say, user container, because this is going to be used to display the profile picture of the user along with their name. So here, once we have that, let's add the image, which is going to be the image of the user. And in order to get image of the user, what I would do is that I would actually need to go ahead and get access to the profile of a particular user who's currently logged in. But right now we only have access to the posts which we currently have, and we do not have access to the user. So in order to get access to the user, first of all, I have to get back to the views. So let's go back to the views which we have, which is powering up this index page. So if I go back to view, I will be able to see the index view which I have created. So currently here in this particular view, we do have access to the current user, but in order to get the profile picture, let's first find out where the profile picture lies. So here, if I go to admin, if I go to users here, you'll be able to see that we do not have any kind of a profile picture, but the profile picture actually lies in this profiles model which we have. So if I go to a particular user, as you can see, this right here is the profile picture of a current user, and that's exactly what we want to access. So right now inside this particular view, we already have access to the current user, but now if I want to get access to the profile, here what I would do is that I would say profile equals, and I want to get the profile of the currently logged in user. So here I will get access to the profile by saying profile.objects, and if I say all, it will give me access to all the profiles. But instead I want to filter this thing up, and I want to say that I want the profile of the user which is the currently logged in user. So I would say user equals the current user, and we are basically getting the current user from the request object. So here I would say current user. And then also I want the first element of this particular array, because whenever you are doing profile.objects.filter is going to give you an array, and from that array we want the first element of that array, which is going to be nothing but the profile. So now once we have this profile of that user, I now have to pass in the profile picture or the profile object here. So here I would pass in profile as profile. Okay, so once we have access to that particular profile, I could head back to index.html, and here for the image source, I could simply go ahead and access that particular profile object. So I could instead say profile, which is the object which we have just passed. And once we have the profile, now we simply have to access this photo field which we have. So I could go back and I could say profile.photo, and as I want to get the URL, I could say .url. So if I save this, if I go back here, let's see what do we get. So I'll head back to the old URL, hit refresh. We are actually getting the profile photo, and I've actually set the profile photo same as the logo picture which we had, so that's a problem. So we could fix that. So let me go to admin. Let me go to profiles. Let me go to the profile for myself. Let's clear up this thing, or let's choose up an image. So let's say I choose an avatar image for myself. If I click save, okay, so I'll select an avatar image, click on save, and now the profile image is changed. I could go back to the page, hit refresh, and now as you can see, we have this avatar image along with the post image which we have. So after that, the next thing which we need to do is we need to add the name of a particular user who's currently logged in. So now in order to do that, I would go ahead, go right after the image ends. So the image actually ends here, and I'll add a div so as to hold up the name of the user which we currently want. So here we currently want to get the logged in user, or the user who's associated with the post, and henceforth here I could simply say post.user. If I do that, now as you can see, we have the profile image, we have the name of that particular user, we also have the image posted by that user, and we have that for all the images for the currently logged in user. So now our next job is to go ahead and style up the different elements which we have here. So we need to have the image here, we need to have name at the right of that particular image, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and let's do that in the next one.